Good afternoon, everyone. This is Alexander Napolin, Attorney at Large, goes live every weekday afternoon discussing a current event from the legal perspective and answering your questions in the chat. If you're out there and you have questions, leave them in the chat. Let's get right into the current event for today. We are discussing the new documentary that is coming out involving Monsanto's weed killer. Roundup was found by a jury to cause cancer, non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. There's a new documentary follows former groundskeeper Dwayne Lee Johnson's trial against the agrochemical giant Monsanto. So, what does this mean from the legal perspective? This is a documentary that is being released in the United States, potentially across the globe. Monsanto's product has been found by a jury to cause cancer. The specifics of this case: this was a groundskeeper who worked for a school district in California who was using the weed killer made by Monsanto called Roundup. Specifically, the weed killer, let's see here. The weed killer got into his suit. He was out spraying using Ranger Pro. It was a fountain of Ranger Pro coming out of the back of his little pickup truck. He had something on the back of his pickup truck. He was going around spraying and killing weeds, going into fields, using this product, and this hose got loose and it showered his body. It showered Johnson's body in this chemical. And shortly after that, he started to develop lesions on the skin, and it says at the end of his second spraying season, Johnson discovered a lesion on his knee as well. He wasn't sure what it was, but it spread and spread, and by October 2014, it was covering his whole body. That's what he found out. That's when he found out that he had non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. So the perspective here is that there's a company that has been potentially producing a product that causes cancer. Well, not potentially. They're producing a product that a jury says causes cancer, and they were not warning consumers that it could cause this type of cancer. The jury found that Monsanto knew that it could cause cancer and did not warn anybody that it could. So Johnson had flawless skin prior to this trial, or prior to this exposure, and then developed this horrible cancer. So the jury comes back with an award of $298 million, and that was later cut back on appeal to $20.5 million. But the thing that pops out that is interesting is that Monsanto, now owned by Bayer, a drug company, has devoted $16 billion to Roundup litigation to address roughly 98,000 to 125 cases. So it looks like if you develop non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, or you have another issue type of cancer that could be caused by this weed killer, you have a potential lawsuit against Monsanto or Bayer, and they've allocated $16 billion to fight you or potentially pay you. So if you're out there and you've used Roundup or a weed killer made by Monsanto, and that could, the specific product that Johnson was using was called Ranger Pro, got all over his body. He was wearing a suit, but it got into his suit, and then, well, I'll read it right here. I had my Tyvek suit on, but of course this thing is showering me, he says. I got it all over me, down in my suit, in my gloves, everywhere. And I went back to the shop, changed my shirt. I left the pants on. I didn't have any other trousers, and I cleaned up and I went back to work. But as we read before, at the end of his second spraying season, Johnson discovered a lesion on his knee. He wasn't sure what it was, but it spread and it spread. And by October 2014, it was covering his whole body. So he used it, it looks like, for 2 spraying seasons. I don't know if that's 2 years, but it looks like the tank on the back of his truck, that it cracked. In the summer of 2013, the hose got caught in a crack in the road and snapped off. And that's when the exposure, the big exposure happened. So by the second season, by October 2014, from the summer of 2013 to October of 2014, 2 seasons of using this product, Ranger Pro, which is Roundup by Monsanto, Johnson had developed non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. Now it looks like there's some documents here. It looks like he went ahead and he called Monsanto and said, hey, I had a large exposure. He wondered if the cancer was related, and they didn't do anything. They didn't say anything to him. They didn't, it says in Johnson's trial, his lawyer Brent Wisner refers to an internal document from Monsanto about that conversation. Okay, it reads, spoke to Dwayne Johnson, and this is his story. Dr. Daniel Goldstein, who was the lead of the medical sciences and outreach at Monsanto at the time, replied to that document, I will call him, but no one called Johnson back. Dr. Goldstein never reached out to him, and so he just keeps using Ranger Pro, and it gets worse and worse and worse, said Wisner, who's the lead lawyer on the case where Johnson was awarded this massive amount of money. Here's a short video that they have on this article. So if you're out there and you're concerned that your cancer is caused by using Roundup, if you have cancer, you're not sure where it came from, but you've been exposed to using to Monsanto products, weed killers. It looks like this particular one was the Ranger Pro, which is basically Roundup, that a jury has found that it causes cancer. Now, it sounds like Monsanto, Bayer AG, is disputing this fact, but a jury was convinced that it in fact did cause cancer. So if you're out there and you're wondering, do I have a case? You need to contact an attorney so that you can get involved and potentially get some compensation. I know it's not going to undo your cancer, but if you've been exposed to Roundup and you've had extensive exposure or a lot of exposure, it may be the cause of your cancer. I know that's not the best topic to cover. I don't feel like it's a great topic. I don't like talking about it. It's something that's kind of nerve-wracking to me to think that a company would know that something causes cancer and wouldn't label it so that people would take extra caution with it. But that's the allegations that are the subject of the litigation and the subject of this new documentary that follows the former groundskeeper Dwayne Lee Johnson's trial against the agrochemical giant Monsanto. These companies, they don't care about the consumer. They're capitalists, and they only care about making a profit. So, will they forego labeling something that they know is dangerous, causing cancer for up to 125,000 people in the United States? Possibly. I'm sure there's going to be more trials. I'm sure that there's going to be more settlements, potential settlements. I don't know if there's been a settlement. It sounds like this was a jury verdict, not a settlement. But if you're out there, you may eventually have a settlement because Monsanto, which is now owned by Bayer, is committing $16 billion to the litigation of these claims. That's a lot of money, people. So if you're out there and you're concerned, it's important that you call a lawyer. You look up online, you find lawyers who are pursuing these cases. If you come across my live stream, you come across one of my videos, and you're concerned about the potential that you've had exposure and that you could have cancer because of that exposure, you can call my office, dial 866-NAPOLEON. You can also visit my website, www.napoleonlaw.com. Head over to the chat feature, talk to my assistant, leave your information. We'll get back to you. We'll help you find representation that's going to see your case, analyze what happened to you, and then help you achieve justice against Monsanto. I highly recommend that everyone check out this documentary. And if you do have cancer, you should follow up with a lawyer. Well, that's it for my afternoon live stream. I've been very busy this week. This is the only one that I'm doing. I'm going to get back into the practice of it. I'm going to start live streaming every afternoon at 4 p.m. This is Alexander Napolin, Attorney at Large, goes live every weekday afternoon, discussing a current event from the legal perspective and answering your questions in the chat. I'll probably come back on here, do another story before I go home. So that's the story for now. Remember, dial 866-NAPOLEON if you need help. What we discuss here on this channel is not legal advice. It is entertainment. It's educational. It's meant to help you understand the world around you, get a better understanding of the whole situation. Then you need to call a lawyer if you think you have a case and discuss the specific facts and circumstances of your situation so that it can be evaluated and appropriately pursued through legal avenues. That's it for now. If you need help, dial 866-NAPOLEON or visit my website, www